Man, oh man, are things just looking better for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I know what you're thinking. Lego, are you really going to start talking to us about stuff that happened yesterday? And yeah, technically, we have to open the video up by going over what happened, because in order to dive into today's scoop, the real reason we are bringing together these two guys and making a video about them, we have to go over some of the context here. So, of course, we are referring once again to the Montreal Canadiens and St. Louis Blues 1-for-1 blockbuster back in the summer. A trade that, to the surprise of many, did not end up involving Jordan Kyrou, but instead involved Zach Bolduc heading over to Montreal in exchange for Logan Mailloux. Now, Bolduc is awesome, and we saw more of this yesterday, as the Canadiens ended up beating the Chicago Blackhawks 4-1, and where Bolduc ended up scoring 2 goals. Thank you, Lane Hutson, for the 3 assists as well. My fantasy team is very happy today. But either way, Zach Bolduc has gone out there with yet another multi-goal game. It's been a while since he has had one of those. Actually, no, this is the first one he has had all year. I stand corrected, but he's finally getting back out there on the score sheet. He's got 2 goals in the game against Chicago, and a lot of Canadiens fans have responded to the Bolduc explosion from yesterday saying, hey, wait a minute, isn't it crazy how this guy was traded for Logan Mailloux? And by all accounts, via St. Louis Blues fans, St. Louis media, St. Louis reporting, it hasn't really looked all too great for Mailloux with the Blues in Missouri. 22 years old, 6'3", 212 right-handed guy. He actually got sent down to the Springfield Thunderbirds, where he played a little bit of a sample over there. He had 2 goals, which is nice, but Mailloux in the NHL has only scored 2 points in 22 total games played this year. It hasn't really been all too great for this guy. You take a look at some of the advanced analytics, he is very frequently on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen on the NHL game scores, so Mailloux just has not been effective this season, one bit. Sure, there's potential there. Sure, there is a profile that you can say is worthwhile. 6'3", 212 right-handed guy that's not undesirable. But for Logan Mailloux, the reason we're diving into things in this video is because of his recent interview that was published on radiocanada.ca. Take a look at this piece by Marc-Antoine Gaudin. It was originally in French, and I ended up translating it to English via the Google machine. This is how everything looked at the beginning. You can go out there and read this article on your own time. It'll be linked in the description. But the title of the piece talks about how Logan Mailloux hopes to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, it kind of sounds like a euphemism for passing away, so we're going to hope that nobody does that. But Logan Mailloux does have some really interesting comments when it comes to his place in St. Louis, how things looked like in Montreal, and whether or not there would have been that same chance with the Habs. Take a look at this comment here. Mailloux made many friends during his time with Laval. He would have loved to face Jakub Dobeš on Saturday night. The Blues defenseman did not shed any tears, though, the day the Canadiens traded him for Bolduc. I just want my chance. I don't think I would have had a fair chance in Montreal with all the players they have on defense. So, I think it would have been difficult, Mailloux said a few hours before the game between the Blues and the Ottawa Senators. I'm really lucky to be here in St. Louis and have this opportunity. There's a lot of insight in that comment, including the recognition that the Blues had a spot to offer him. In the past, in Montreal, Mailloux had worked to earn a roster spot. Arriving in training camp in St. Louis this fall, he had a spot to lose. Now, the mentality does seem to be a little bit different here with Logan Mailloux as a Blues defenseman rather than as a Canadiens guy. We all recognize that it was going to be difficult for this guy to outwit some of the other Canadiens blue liners, Carrier, Dobson, even a Reinbacher, and then all the guys on the left side with Hutson, Gouli, Xhekaj, Struble, Matheson. It's a bit of a logjam for the Montreal Canadiens, so seeing Logan Mailloux be open and honest about this opportunity in St. Louis. Hey, the article says there's a lot of insight and that he had a spot to lose with the Blues. Unfortunately, though, it did look like he lost it for a little bit as he got sent down to the AHL due to inferior subpar play. But let's continue over here. Chief Executive Doug Armstrong saw it as his own business. Mailloux wanted a chance? He got it. But the concern right now is that this opportunity threatens to slip through his fingers. Anyone keeping an eye on the NHL statistics couldn't have failed to notice that Mailloux's plus-minus rating plummeted at the start of the season. His minus 15 isn't the worst of the NHL, but he established it in just 15 games. No other player in the league loses an average of 1 point differential per game. Nobody likes to have a negative balance sheet in the double digits at only 1 point at this time of the year. It's certainly not a positive point in my season, Mailloux added, but I try not to worry about that kind of thing and instead focus on building my game from match to match and finding a way to help the team win. After his first 9 games, Mailloux had no points and a plus-minus of minus 12, averaging just 12 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time. On November 9th, the Blues opted to send him back to the AHL. He stayed there for under 2 weeks, long enough to regain some confidence in his puck handling. I'm playing my own style more. I'm more confident in my actions, and I have more impact, the 22-year-old defenseman said. Before, I was a little too tense, whereas I'm in a better situation now. I feel more in sync with the game since my return. So that obviously spells some optimism for Mailloux and how exactly he's been able to adjust ever since being accommodated back into the National Hockey League. Unfortunately, the numbers haven't really been there. I mean, he's only got 2 points in this many games ever since returning to the St. Louis Blues. He's still putting up a bunch of minuses as well, so it's not really looking all too great for this guy. He is getting some 9-minute games in there, but frequently hovers around the 12 to 13-minute mark. Meanwhile, for Zach Bolduc, the guy's gone out there and started scoring again for the Montreal Canadiens, so I do think there is some added value there. Let's finish off the end of this article over here and just read where things have gone. Montreal fans knew Mailloux as a D prospect who was decidedly offensively minded. With the puck, he is capable of penetrating opposing defenses. His shot from the blue line is dangerous, and he has the size to deliver some solid hits. Things have consistently gone awry in his own territory, though. And that's why, at the end of the 24-25 season, where progress in his area and in decision-making had not been significant, the organization chose to continue without him. In St. Louis, he faces the same challenges. Advanced statistics, including those of microstatistician Corey Schneider, suggest that Mailloux was one of the worst defensemen in the league this season when it comes to recovering the puck in the D zone and orchestrating a zone exit. There also is the PDO statistic. There are 658 players in the NHL who have played at least 100 minutes at 5v5 since the start of the year, and Mailloux comes in a last-place position with a PDO of 820. That is not great, and there's a bigger explanation here as to why everything is put together the way it is, but essentially, when you are last place in the NHL of players who have played 100 minutes of 5v5 in PDO, it means that everything is not going your way. The goaltenders are not making saves, and you guys are not getting any shots. It is absolutely terrible, and since 2007, when the PDO statistic began to be compiled, no player had ever reached such a low on-ice efficiency stat as Mailloux. In terms of expected goals, both the chances generated by the Blues and those given to the opponent, Mailloux isn't the worst player on his team, though, so I guess you can say expected goals are actually reasonable, but PDO specifically is not looking good for this former Canadiens defenseman. Lots of info in this article, by the way, so if you hadn't already figured it out, the link is going to be in the description if you want to read more about it. I just wanted to shine a little bit of a spotlight here, acknowledging how Bolduc has started to score and Mailloux continues to struggle. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about his commentary as well, how he said he wouldn't have gotten a fair chance with Montreal and that he's happy to be in St. Louis nowadays. How does this make you feel? Does it rub you the wrong way? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.